Great.
Hi, Demetrius.
Caleb, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great, doing great.
Good.
So did you get my did you happen to get my message about the are you able to transfer over so I can
The recording stuff?
the record the video for you?
Yeah, that's fine, man. And I guess from my understanding, is this for like YouTube or like what are you thinking?
So this is for a podcast series I'm doing.
Oh, cool.
I will put it on YouTube. Do you not want to be on YouTube?
I'm cool with it. Yeah. I didn't know. I mean, we didn't have, I guess, a formal conversation. I haven't been on a podcast for a minute, so I'm fine. I got my own podcast and I'm fine to do that. I just felt, I guess, for a couple minutes, I'd love to get to know you better, and if that's fine with you.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So what I'm doing here, I'm creating a network. So
Mm-hmm.
people I interview are people who I'm like, hey, look, this person, they're doing a lot of good things. I want to work with them. They have knowledge, but I also understand that I did see you have a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So as a way to cross market, you could take clips from this video or anything you want to promote to my audience. You let them know, and then once I edit the video or you edit the video, I'll send them. I'll create the newsletter and I'll email it to my audience. So if you have a book, course, any sort of event that's coming up you want to promote, or any type of program you might happen to have, I'll send that to my audience. And you can do the same for me with your audience. So I have a book I've
Mm-hmm.
written, Wilson's Real Estate Dictionary. It's about people how to get the language so they can get into real estate. And then I have an event coming up October 1st as well.
Oh, is that for multifamily?
Yes, for multifamily. It's mind state and multifamily. And what we do is first, it's the mindset portion, getting the mind right to buy multifamily. And then the last half, we talk about raising capital, structuring seller financing, and then how to actually buy apartment complexes. So that's the second half. The event is going to be on October 1st. And you're welcome to attend. It's going to be here in East Point, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if you'll be able to make it, but I'll send you a free ticket.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm in Phoenix, so I think I'll be. I don't remember. I think that's a Monday, right? The first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be traveling later that week, so I won't be able to that day. I'd love to though. So if you have more events coming up, let me know. I'll need a little bit
Mhm.
earlier advance. Um, so how did you get into multifamily? How'd you learn to this point?
Just courses, man. Courses, teaching, mentors, read a lot of books. So like I was saying, over the text, just talking to different people who own apartment complexes, sellers, agents, and then also going to courses like David Lindahl. He has a course on multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tyler Devereaux has a course. He actually is it's called I actually have the bag right here. Multifamily mindset. He was advertising his course. I got the book,
Mm-hmm.
I read it, and I've been wanting to get a large number of properties for a long time. I've looked at different methods of, buying them one at one, or just acquiring a large portfolio, or just buying a large number of units at one time. So I was like, let me just apply the information and go to the course. And then from there, it really just is applying the information.
Yeah. Okay. Um, how long you been in it?
So this will be 8 years.
Wow. Like multifamily specifically?
No, 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 not multi specifically. In real estate, 8 years. So, well, I guess technically, like at this scale, not 8 years, but I've had two quadruplexes. Just sold one last year, and then I sold the other one 3 years ago. Bought those like 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Renovated them, rented them out, the property manager thing, contractors, hired all of those guys. So then I was like, hey, look, let me get into multifamily. I've seen your Instagram page. I was like, man, this guy, you're at where I want to be, and we're the same age.
Oh,
So like,
cool.
this is even better. So I was like, you've already got the experience, but you're the same age as me, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
27, right?
26.
26. Okay, even better. You're younger. I'm
Hmm.
27.
Cool.
So I'm like, you obviously have ambitious goals and have achieved them. You're definitely someone to be interviewed. You definitely like, I'm like, I need to pay attention to you because you're doing, big things. You're achieving like, my goals.
It means a
So I
lot,
was like,
man.
let me reach out to you and just see, if you want to do interviews, see how we can work with each other, what kind of ways we can collaborate. What do you need help with? What can I help you with? Why you got into this, what your journey was like. Would definitely love to hear, how you went from the beginning to now. And then
Hmm.
also, what your other long-term goals are, like future goals.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Happy to talk about it and would love to look and explore other ways how you and I can partner together, Lord willing, and see how that all works out. And I'm sure we'll talk about more of it in the podcast, or I say podcast interview, whatever we call it. But
Mhm.
how, so it sounds like, do you know how to underwrite, raise capital, and I guess what experience do you have with that so far?
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm familiar with all of those things, underwriting, the raising capital. I know how to do it. I have a CPA in the moment. He's doing all the paperwork for the different series and syndications and whatnot. But yeah, 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 yeah. Definitely familiar, courses they show you how to do it, done it, got a couple offers in, came back, raised some money, still need to raise some more money. Got about 1.1 million committed. So
Good.
still looking to get to, to 10 million by the end of this next 12-month cycle. And then from there, just buy more properties.
Cool. So you already have one under contract?
No, don't have it under contract. I need to actually come up with 1.8 as a proof of funds.
Oh, okay. So I guess who wants to see the 1.8?
The the
Is it like
agent,
for a specific deal?
seller, agent, yeah. The seller, the agent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, specific deal. Yeah, I had put an offer in, got back with me, and they're like, "We like your offer, but we want to see proof of funds." So, it's a little bit higher than what I currently raise. So, I'm raising some more to move forward with that.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah. Yeah, well let's jump into it.
Cool, 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 cool. So yeah, I'm gonna just ask you, like why you got into this, what your story was, what what your long-term goals are, how I can help you, how you can help me, what help you need with, and then like what do you need help with, and then like what kind of ways we can collaborate. And then anything else you feel like sharing or talking about, definitely feel free. The people on my platform, my audience, if you have like a page, a program, a course, a book, a product you want to promote, you can do that as well.
Cool. I made you the host, so I don't know if you're recording
Oh,
already.
I'm not recording. Let me see this. Okay. Oh, it is. I guess it just automatically continued. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, everything's still recording. So whenever you're ready. Uh, I mean to be transparent, this is episode number 3. So I
Cool.
haven't released any episodes yet. So you're gonna be very beginning
Love
episode,
it.
and of course anybody I interview, you feel free to interview them, and if you want to bring them on your show, however. And yeah, so just whenever you're ready, just why did you get into real estate?
Yeah, great question, man. And thanks for having me. So my reason for getting into it was actually because of my mom. And uh I got into real estate 8 years ago, but 7 years ago actually. But 8 years ago, my mom had bilateral knee replacements and she took 3 months off work to heal. And
Oh,
at the end of 3 months, I should also say single mom, so she's not married, had no husband to lean on, and had no other passive income. All she had, Demetrius, was her savings.
wow.
So at the end of that 3 months, she was out of money,
Yeah. Wow.
and
Yeah.
she
Two
was
thirds. Yeah.
yeah, and she was forced to go back to work. So I remember her. I remember seeing her come home from work for the first few days, just with tears running down her face because of the physical pain. So seeing her go through that is what inspired me to want to help her retire early. And I also saw I didn't want that to be me when I'm 65 and
Hmm.
some unforeseen thing happened and I'm stuck at a job. So, um, that's when I knew I needed to do something else. I got into multi-level marketing after that. Then, shortly after that, I learned that 90% of millionaires got their millions through real estate. So, I thought those
Hmm.
were pretty good odds. That's when I focused on real estate. I got involved with bigger pockets, mentors, and on from there. So, I kind of call it my final straw moment, which was my mom. So, uh, I know this is your show, but I'm curious, did you have a moment like that?
Um, Specifically related to my mom, no, it was more of like my, my moment, my intro to real estate was really I wanted to be a farmer first thing, honestly.
Hmm.
And so, I was telling my parents, this is around like when I'm like 14. I'm like, hey guys, I want to be a farmer. And
Hmm.
my dad is like, well, the farmers don't own the land. They, government subsidies. So I was like, man, that's gonna, that's throwing a wrench in my plans. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to figure out how I can own some land if I want, since I want to be a farmer. And so, my birthday, close to Christmas, I asked for land for my birthday
Hmm.
at 14. And, my parents don't know how to buy land. They don't know how to acquire it. They definitely don't know how to buy a farm. So I was like, okay, at that point, I realized I'm gonna have to figure this out on my own. And so I started reading a lot of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon.
Hmm.
And then about, fast forward about 5 years later, I actually did buy that farm about 30 acres
Nice.
of trees. And so I have a tree farm. And then from there, I was like, man, I need to doing all of this research just about trying to figure out how to buy land. I ended up understanding, like what Robert Kiyosaki teaches, the four quadrants, employee, self-employed, big business,
Hmm.
investor. I was
Hmm.
like, I need to be on this big business investor side. And so then from there, I said, man, he said he bought a house on a credit card. I'm like, what, what is credit? I don't even have a credit card at the moment. So I'm trying to figure out what credit is, how I can use it to buy a house. And then, I ended up actually going to the military for a little bit, right out of high school. Did about 3 years. While I was in the military, I got my real estate license, and I started just learning how to sell real estate, learning how to read contracts, and then I went from there with my investing journey. About 6 months later.
Nice, man. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't like a real, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back moment, but it was a
Mhm.
continual, just like, man, I got to figure out how to buy land, like contracts, all of these things. So that's
Mhm.
that's it's very profound. Your mom, you seen your mom suffering, you wanted to be the person to relieve her from that, and so you found real estate. And yeah, I'm familiar with Bigger Pockets as well. So shout out to Bigger Pockets. I
Mhm.
really like what Brandon Turner's doing over there. Definitely look up to him as far as his business model and the platform he's built.
Yeah.
So, would you mind, for my audience, they don't know, they haven't done the research on you. Would you mind just telling them, what your background is? I kind of have an idea of how many units you own, but let them know how many units you own, and then just like how you put that deal together. They might not understand, how to structure it, but I'll explain if there's any sort of like higher level terminology.
Yeah. So I've been again investing for 7 years. I started in small multifamily, the house hack strategy, which is where you live in one unit, you rent out the other units of a small multifamily. But when you do that, it's owner occupied, which means your down payment, as long as you have job history of the last 2 years, then your down payment is only 3.5%. So for my first fourplex, I needed about 10 to 15 grand, which was a great deal. And this was when was that? 2017. So really good timing. Praise the Lord. So did the fourplex, did the duplex, all house hack. I did the flip as well, but I learned well, excuse me, I always knew I would get into commercial multifamily. I just either thought I needed millions or of my own money, or that I would need more experience in residential. And you might
Hmm.
have heard those people that scale up right by the duplex and the fourplex, then the 8 unit, then the 16. So I
Yeah.
thought that's what I needed to do. And then 3 years in, I went to my first apartment complex meetup. There, I learned it didn't matter my experience if I had 15 years or 5 months of residential. Whenever I would go into commercial apartments, it was going to be a completely different business. So I would
Hmm.
be relearning something completely new. So I should just start sooner rather than later. That was eye-opening to me. And then I also, the speaker at that meetup also shared the numbers on his first deal. And this gentleman had owned this apartment complex for about 4.5 years. And when they sold, he alone made 2.5 million and using none of his own money. So
Hmm.
I went full force apartments after that. Since then, have acquired 6 apartment complexes, totaling 374 units. Our last deal was 233 in Vegas that we closed in May. Um, I do own some retail, but I really just focus on 75 plus units at this point. So, and I use a couple different methods. You asked how I structure those deals.
Hmm.
JVs and syndications, where we find a consortium of investors for the acquisition of a property, and then we generally hold those properties for about 3 to 5 years, and we look to double investors' money in that time frame.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that. A lot of different ways we could take the conversation.
Hmm.
I'm gonna just, I'm gonna just say,
Demetrius, you there? Anybody there? They froze. You there? Hey, buddy.
hey, yeah. Um, I have no idea how that happened. Um, anyway, did you hear what I was saying as far what was the last thing you heard?
Um, I shared my story, and you said there was a lot of ways we could take this conversation, and then it cut out.
Okay. Um, okay. So, you know, where are you finding the investor, this consortium, what that interaction was like, how you did your very first deal, how you felt going into the deal, how you felt after doing the deal, where your mindset was, confidence levels, anxiety, fear. If you had any struggles along the way with doing that first deal. And then also, great one is, how are you able to do these deals nationally? Because I know you said you're based here in Arizona, and
Hmm.
that most recent apartment complex was in Vegas, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So great question. How are you, structuring your business to do it nationally?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of good questions in there. And so starting with the national one, well, gosh, I don't know where to take it exactly, but I've been in the business commercial wise for 4 years. and I've made lots of connections over that time. Probably connected with about 100 to 150 uh, coast GP sponsors and different various partners, and there's of course many more out there. And I don't have the largest network, but whenever I have different strategic partners that I would want to partner with, whenever they have a deal, I have the capacity to raise capital. And so if someone has a deal, then every once in a while, maybe once a year, I'll contact them and say, do you have any offerings right now that you need some assistance on raising capital for? So that's how I found this deal, this Vegas deal. A good friend of mine, is the lead sponsor on it, a really great brother in Christ of mine. And so that's how I found that deal. On the flip side, on the acquisition side, I'll underwrite deals. I have broker relationships and will underwrite. And whenever I find a deal, then we'll raise capital or bring in other co-sponsors for that. But I think personally, buying apartment complexes out of state is easier than buying single family out of state because multifamily commercial specifically operates like a business. So
Mhm.
it management it's better for me and my time to hire third party management compared to me managing an apartment complex myself because they're boots on the ground. They know the business better than I do. And whenever I hire that out, I have more of my time freed up so I can go find another deal, right? That has another acquisition fee, which has more cash flow, more appreciation, helps the community. So that's why I like buying nationally compared to in-state. And I'll say too, it is easier to buy in-state if your market can handle it. When I started buying multifamily in 2020 in Phoenix, prices were 300, 250,000 per unit. Now they're around 120. So they're more stabilized, but
Yeah,
pricing didn't make sense. So if you can't buy in your market, go out of state. And personally, I'm more of a cash flow investor. So I'd rather invest something at a higher cap rate compared to otherwise. So I'm going to go wherever the cash flow is.
nice, nice, nice. So, so are you doing this? I mean, we're doing this podcast, right? So, are you doing this through podcast? Like, where are you finding the property manager? How are you? A great question. How do you feel comfortable at night knowing that there's, an apartment complex in Vegas that you can't just drive to?
Hmm.
How are you able to, manage that?
That's a good question. I would even flip it and say, um, I'm grateful that it's not in my neighborhood because then
Mhm.
someone else is in charge of it as long as I hire the right people. So, um, yeah, I want to have boots on the ground, people that I know, like, and trust, but I'd prefer to be more the asset manager role. So where I manage the property manager, but the property manager is a person that does all that. So I guess how do I sleep well at night? We just mitigate risk and know that it's it's just an apartment complex. So as long as I've underwritten the deal conservatively, I have partners that can kind of fill the need where maybe I'm missing, right? They have the experiences that I haven't had with plumbing, roofing, brokerages. They've owned more units than I have. They've been in the business longer than I have, so they know how to overcome some hurdles that I haven't seen. That's how I sleep better at night.
Nice. Yeah, well said. Definitely well said. Well spoken. Um, okay, okay, great. So when you're working with your investors, you have your investor relationships as far as, determining who to bring onto the JV or, into the syndication.
Mhm.
Where are you finding these people? Do you vet them? How do you make sure they're the right person, with the right experience? And then once the deal is in progress, how do you communicate with them?
So I find your question, just from my understanding, is how do I find my kind of co-GP partners,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, good question. So through LinkedIn, originally it was in-person meetups. And being in Phoenix, I understand not everyone has the luxury of being in a very populated, hot market, right? We're one of the top three real estate markets in the nation. So we have lots of in-person meetups. And at least when I was starting off. So that's where I met a lot of my initial partners. You can go to many large, there's courses, right? You and I were talking offline about David Lindahl. He has an ultimate partner, UP ultimate partnering. Tyler Devereaux has peak partnership. So there's all these different uh, events, right? 3-day weekend conferences where people can go and network. There's LinkedIn where you can find your co-GPs as well. One strategy I really like is we're listening to a podcast now. So if you listen to other podcasts where they interview multifamily syndicators, find those syndicators on LinkedIn. And I mean, if someone's interviewed 50 syndicators, they've done the work for you essentially. And these people know what they're talking about too. If they're on a podcast, the likelihood that they know what they're talking about is pretty high. So go to them and find them on LinkedIn or social media and contact them. And if someone has interviewed 50 people, they've essentially done the work for you. And all you have to do is look up the names and find them.
Great, great. So you guys out there listening, he's giving you great advice, great wisdom. Apply it. Because that's why we're here creating this podcast. So you guys get knowledge, you guys can get value, you guys can cut the learning curve, you can make less mistakes, save more money, and get to your goals faster. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I want to take it next. So with you already having 300 plus units, what's next for you? What are some of your next goals you're looking to achieve?
Um, I think at the end of the day, it's just cash flow. So you can buy properties, you can buy apartment complexes, and you can say, hey, you own a lot of units and you don't make much money. You make an acquisition fee, but you got to make sure you're buying some cash flowing assets. And I've also experienced this where you can buy a lot of properties. Like in 2022, we bought four complexes and then try to buy another four the next year and then another four the next year. I felt God telling me this kind of earlier this year is like focus on what you got, stabilize it, and then move on to something else. So for me going forward, I want to buy cash flowing assets
Mm.
where it's meeting my goals. I don't just want to buy units to say I don't want to just buy 300 units to say I own 300 units. I mean, I understand there's some point to that, but I got into real estate to make money and of course glorify God. But so I want to buy cash flowing assets. And, also I'm okay buying smaller deals. People will normally, you might hear people say, I want to focus on 100 plus unit apartment complexes. And I do the same thing. I mean, on the show, I said I want 75 plus units. But if someone brings me a 16 unit deal where it doesn't require a lot of my time investment and I'm going to make $1 million, then I'm going to do the deal. I don't care if it's 16 units or not. If the ROI is there for my time investment, then I'm going to do the deal. So that is to answer your question, right? Buy more cash flowing assets, stabilize what I've got, and enjoy life. I think through this entire journey, sometimes there's two sides of the spectrum that we can idolize money or we can demonize money, right? So we can
Mhm.
idolize it, meaning we look up to it and
Yeah.
it's our idol, and that's a
Mhm.
problem. On the flip side, you got people that demonize money. Like I think W-2 workers, not all of them, don't take offense. I hope don't take offense when I say this, but many people that have day jobs, they think they don't want to make a lot of money because the people that make a lot of money are greedy. So,
It's funny you say that because actually very not a coincidence. I actually just got a message from somebody
mhm,
literally saying, we, worship material wealth and that's distracting us from, the natural abundance that is all around us. And
mhm,
literally as you were speaking, I was like, man, this guy is literally talking about, sort of the same thing, like
mhm,
demonizing money
right,
and idolizing money when, money is a tool.
right. Right. And so I think we should there's a nice middle ground, right? I think it says in the Bible that the love of money is the root of all evil.
Mm-hmm.
Not money. Money is not the root of all evil, the love of money. So it's a great tool, right? Money gives us options. But at the same time, we don't want to be so stingent on our money to where we're scared to spend it. And it's kind of funny on an extreme example. Like I just bought a house and I could see myself, this is my kind of my heritage kicking in, but I'll unplug the TV. If I'm not watching TV, I'll unplug it because I don't want to use a utility bill,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or
Yeah.
use electricity. And so there's a part of it where it's okay, God's given you something, so it's okay to enjoy it, right? He's blessed us and he wants us to enjoy those blessings. But, at the same time, we don't need to, because being stringent like that can be a lack of faith. It can be a
Mm-hmm.
lack of faith in God that he will provide for us and not
Yeah.
enjoy what he's blessed us with. So I know
Yeah.
that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's kind of where I'm at.
No, no, no. That's definitely that's a great answer. Especially for my audience, and myself as well. Like you guys don't have to, sacrifice God and turn away from Christ to make a lot of money. A lot of
Hmm.
people do have that mindset that money is the root of all evil. You shouldn't make more than you need. You should only make enough. You should, save what you can, don't spend more, and then try to just get by.
Hmm.
When God says we'll inherit the earth.
Hmm.
The meek shall inherit the earth. So understanding that those mindsets, those beliefs that you have around money are why you may not have bought an apartment complex up till now, and why you Caleb, you have bought an apartment complex because you have that understanding, and that's why the name of the conference is mind state and multifamily, because
Hmm.
that mind state is those limiting beliefs are preventing you from even analyzing an opportunity that'll put you into a better position and will help you achieve your goals and live a fulfilled life, take care of your family responsibilities, community, et cetera, et cetera. But you won't even take the time to acquire the knowledge to then apply it because you believe money is the root of all evil,
Hmm.
when really it's the love of money is the root of all evil.
Right.
Um, no, so that's very poignant because a lot of times people, they have to be walked through, hey, I'm not better than you because I have an apartment complex, or I'm not richer than you, or yeah, you're a W-2, but you can't be on the investment side or on the business side. It's like, well, this is why I'm on the investment side and I'm on the business side because I have this understanding
Hmm.
and I'm applying it to my business practices. And so, people need to hear that because they won't know that unless we walk them through that. So definitely long-winded is good. Um, and of course, if you guys is a podcast, if it's too long, you can just fast forward.
Hmm. That's what I do.
Um, so great goal. Let's go back a bit. Walk us through that first deal you did. That very first, syndication or JV, however you structured it.
So the first one was a 16 unit in Oklahoma City. It was a joint venture. So we raised about 2.8 million. We had three investors come in. They both brought about, well, they all three brought about 90 to $91,000. And I found the deal, sourced it, raised the capital for it. I did have a mentor who introduced me to one of his partners that did invest in that deal. So, and then that investor brought somebody else. So, raising the capital I found early on was a pretty challenging piece. Um, and so then performing the asset management, right? And so then
Mm.
we've gone through renovating it. It was a value add play. So that was a business plan there.
Yeah. Okay. How many units needed renovations? What was your timeline for the renovation there? And then if you don't mind sharing, what you bought it for, what you exited for, that
Hmm.
sort of thing.
Yeah. So we're selling it actually now. So we bought it for 755, so about $47,000 per unit, and we're going to sell it for about $63,000 per unit. And so for the renovation, I think every unit essentially needed the renovation because it had very outdated checkered floor tile, right? Green and
Mhm.
white or red and white checkered floors, old. So we renovated, I think at this point we've renovated 12 of the 16 units. Rents were like 535 going into it, and then we've increased rents to select units to 735, one unit even up to about 800 plus. So that was kind of the business plan, and we bought it in February of 22, and we're selling it now. It's September of 24.
Smooth. That's great.
Hmm.
That's great. So you brought up a great point. Mentor relationships.
Hmm.
So you said you had a mentor, he connected you with a partner. Would you mind, describing for my audience? Because I've had mentors, I've paid for mentors, done different mastermind programs and whatnot. What the nature of that relationship with your mentor was. If you met him, if you paid for, if you like, you paid him in advance, to mentor you, just what that was like for you.
Hmm. Yeah, I've done that too. I've paid for mentors, and you have people that you meet and talk about real estate, and they're a mentor. So I've done both. I've done paid programs, and I've also had people that just kind of give me a hand up, so to speak. But I've gotten more out of the courses. So that's kind of how that relationship went. And I look, I'm a big, I think there's skepticism sometimes about courses because people have had bad experiences, and praise God I haven't. Um, of the ones that I've invested in, I've had the ROI, but I see value in, let's say, if someone has learned something over 5 years, if they can condense it into 12 months for me, and if I can pay 20 grand, essentially I'm saving 4 years of my time that I would need to learn what they learned on their own, and I'm paying 20 grand for it. And if I make 100 grand a year, I'm essentially, giving up what that's essentially a fifth of a year. So I'm essentially giving up, let's call it 2 months of pay for that, but I'm gaining 4 years back. Right? So if you look at the ROI from that standpoint, I
Hmm.
think the ROI is there. If it's going to save me time, I mean, hands down, we can never, the last 20, 30 minutes you have been listening to this podcast, you cannot get that time back. Okay. And that is 20, 30 minutes you spent away from your family. So personally, I got into real estate to have more time freedom. So
Hmm.
every moment you spend in multifamily is time you're spending away from your family. So that's why you got to be intentional with the time you got so you don't waste it, and don't waste those moments. I have people talk to me all the time. They have kids and 11, 12 years old, and or a friend of mine just had their firstborn. You
Right.
never get that time back whenever you spend it away from them. So that's why I'm open to courses like that.
Very, very well said. Very well spoken. Um, yeah, so that's great. And for that reason, I actually do want to share with you what my goals are.
Hmm.
Since you did say about time. This is in my bio. So you guys, watching this currently, if you're watching this, a couple of years from now, you know, things will be different. But currently, the goal is to acquire 100 units before I turn 30. So that's 2026. I turn 30. That's the goal. And then from there, I am looking to acquire more. But I want to hit that first goal first. I've been looking to get towards that goal for about 5, 6, 7 years. And so it wasn't actually, and to your point, Caleb, what you said, until I started really getting the courses, went to the course, I was believing, oh, the person, the mentor, they have to teach me. It's like, well, they wrote the book for the reason.
Hmm.
Read the book, they showed you how to underwrite it. And then the one deal that I'm looking at right now, it's 96 units in Mississippi. And So, I just applied the information. I gave them three offers. One was asking price, the other one was above asking price, and then the other one was also it was somewhere in between because I wanted them to do some seller financing. About 35 units need renovations, and so I needed them to put a repair credit on on the closing statement on the HUD. And so that way I can repair these properties immediately and then start raising the rents, increasing the rents, and then 5 years or so from now, sell or refinance the property. Um, and so that's where I'm at. I just started putting offers in, got back with the realtor. They like the offer. They like I offered more, obviously, because they walk away with more. But same
Mm-hmm.
time, I have to just come up with the rest of the money for the down payment to secure the property. And then from there, I anticipate my investors getting a 250% return over the course of 5 years. So, you know, let's say you put in 2 million, you'll get back seven in 5 years, which is pretty fair. It's better than average in the stock market. It's not 10% or 8% or 7%. It's better than the bank. It's not 1 or 0% virtually. Um, and for me, I like the expression of actively investing in real estate. Um, which is also why, again, Caleb, I know this is earlier in the podcast, but you guys come check out the event. We're just going to be talking about mind state, how to get your mind right as far as overcoming your goal, well, setting goals, overcoming your fears, overcoming limiting beliefs, creating a vision, creating a desire scroll, as well as how to buy apartment complexes, how to structure seller financing, and also how to raise capital. So, Caleb, you raised capital with those three investors for that first deal. What was that like for you? I mean, did you have a paperwork? What kind of questions did they ask you? Um, what was your mindset? Did you feel confident? Did you feel intimidated? Did you feel like, I need to know everything? Or what was that for you?
Yeah. It was a lot harder than I thought to raise capital because I actually just had this conversation with a couple of my partners on this deal. And one of my friends, Hans, he was in Puma. So I don't remember his exact story, but he was a big distributor in Puma and knew some of the top 10 kind of companies that buy, this shoes, apparel, things like that of Puma. And so he knows a lot of wealthy people. He thought getting into multifamily, this is going to be easy. I know all these wealthy people. It's going to be so easy. I'm going to say, hey, here's a deal, here's the ROI, and they're going to just throw money at me. He did that. And when he presented the deal, they said, hey, Hans, what happened to Puma?
Mm,
Where are the shoes?
mm,
So their mindset was something totally different. I had another friend on that same deal. She owned a hedge fund, and so she obviously knows people that are very well off, people that invest in the stock market, people that invest a lot of money in the stock market. So she did the same thing, right? These people know stocks, so she brought them a great return on a multifamily deal, and they could not comprehend what she's talking about, right? They know stocks. And so whenever you are trying to raise money from people, I hear this all the time is that raising money is going to be simple. It's going to be easy. I know all these wealthy people. You need to actually network with real estate folk that understand one, they got to be sold on real estate already. If you're trying to sell them on real estate, that's one hurdle. Then you got to sell them on your deal on top of that. So you want to find real estate investors, be it they're already LPs or they invest in some residential. They got fourplexes. They know the multifamily game. Those are people that are more likely to invest in your deals. That's not right. You're still going to have the one or two people that do invest that know nothing about real estate, but they trust you. So that will happen. But the majority, you're going to need to know real estate folk to invest with you. So, and I don't remember exactly the questions that we talked about with that deal. It was 30 months ago. But there are two things every investor is going to ask you, or the two most common questions every investor is going to ask himself when you present a deal is what's my risk? That's number one. How is my money safe? Number two is what's in it for me? What's the ROI? So
Mhm.
you got to get ahead of those questions and you sit in the seat of an investor. Think, where can I poke holes in my deal? What can go wrong? How do I get ahead of those questions? Oh, here's a liability. So let's say if it's your first deal, for example, it's your first deal and you're thinking, if an investor, if you go to an investor and say, hey, give me 50 grand for this deal, what are they going to ask you? They're going to say,
What's my risk?
yeah, yeah. You never bought something before. It's your first deal. Well, how can I trust you? That's what they're going to ask. And so now you got to ask, okay, I know what they're going to ask. How do I get in front of it? What's my response? And to do that, how I did that is you have someone that is on your team that already has experience. Because now when that investor says, hey, Demetrius, you never bought a property before. How can I trust you? You can say, yeah, you're right. But my partner, Caleb, he owns 300 units and owns 5 apartment complexes within a 5 mile radius. So, and he signs off on the deal. He's my partner on it. And now that investor says, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, again, the two questions: what's my risk? What's the ROI? So, you got to get ahead of those questions that those investors will ask. And that's across every deal. You got to get ahead of those.
Smooth, smooth. I hope you guys are taking notes because you, Caleb, if you haven't dropped the course, you need to.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
I definitely. I mean, I'm just listening to you, man. Like it's like, man, so many different brand titles. You accomplished a lot. I'm not gonna say in a short amount of time because you're younger than me, and it doesn't feel like a short amount of time, like going through it.
Hmm.
Um, but definitely want to give you your accolades, right? Because you have accomplished a lot, and I hope you continue to do the same and glorify God
Thanks, brother.
in the process of doing that.
Thank you.
Um, and that's that kind of brings me into my next thing, which is the purpose of the event is to teach people and to educate people, but it's also I charge $1,500. It's a serious event because I want people to be around serious people,
Hmm.
and I want people to be able to ask questions from serious people who are actually interested in what they're doing. And then also it's to, find people who are interested in investing in real estate, who are already sold on the idea of real estate and then deal themselves and say, hey, look, these guys are great partners. Or this guy knows what he's talking about. He gave this great event. I learned a lot of information, education. I wanna invest with this guy. And that's how I actually met one of my investors right now who's committed. I was speaking at an event. She saw me speak. I invited her to my next event. She attended. She said, "Hey, look, yeah, I want to do this. I want to get into some this real estate." I was like, "Okay, great." And I'm actually at the point of just getting everyone together and then securing the deal in the sense of putting all the legal paperwork in place, reading about the different C or what is it? Yeah, Regulation D, 506C and 506B. Um, so I can make sure everything is just on the up and up.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah, so yeah. Um, okay. Did you have any other questions or not questions, but did you have anything you wanted to speak on or yeah, questions as well?
Um, no, I guess for you, man, if I can ask you, what do you see as being your biggest challenge to getting that first deal done?
So great question. Definitely raising the capital currently. I would say that last year I set a goal to raise $1 million.
Hmm.
Hit that goal a couple weeks ago. I called a guy, he sold his insurance business, I was like, yeah, man, I want to, I'm buying these apartment complexes. He's like, man, I want to be buying 100 units, 200 units, 1,000 units. So okay, he wants to do that, but he's a pilot. He's like training to become a pilot right now. And so I asked him, I said, how much money do you have, to invest? He said, I have 900,000. I was like, okay, great. Hurdle, surmounted. I have another investor. He's a videographer, so he's got about 200K or whatnot. Another guy, insurance policy. Um, so the main thing though is one, continuing to find those deals that, satisfy them. So where I'm at in the process is that I've got the one deal, and this was only like a week ago, where I was on the phone with a realtor. They said, we like your offer, you offered above asking price. Um, it's listed for 5.7. I offered 6.7 because I need $1 million for the renovation budget, and I get that at closing. So they
Mhm.
like that. And so now really it's just showing, 1.8 liquid, or essentially 2 million liquid. And so I created a pitch deck, gotten on LinkedIn, started sending the pitch deck to a couple different investors and different groups, like family houses, and still just, still doing the pitch currently. So I'm doing the pitch right now to meet those investors who have, 100,000 or 200,000 or a million as well, 1 million, 2 million, to then say, hey, look, this is a great deal. I underwrote it. You can, check my notes as well if you want. It's buying it at a 6% cap rate. Um, 30 of the units need, or really 36 units need renovations, 96 units. Rents are under market about 45%. Um, could
Mm.
easily raise rents to, I think they're like 600 or, 650, could easily raise them to 1,000 over the course of just renovating them and turning them over. The unit itself, it used to be a um a hotel. So now we have to convert, you know, make it individually metered for the water and the electricity so people get their own meters. So that needs to be renovated as well. And then honestly, that's where I'm at. Like that, the main challenge is really just going through my network, finding out who's interested, who sold on it, and then who sold on real estate, and then who wants to take this risk this round.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. Yeah, well, it's exciting to be in that spot. So, yeah, and I've always I think it's good for listeners. We've talked about some courses, so what courses, I guess, have you taken? And also, I think it's important to understand the investment, right? All these courses require investment. So,
Definitely.
uh, so I guess what courses have you taken and what's been like the investment to get into those?
Yeah, so definitely a lot of time, a lot of money, but not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. Um, but it was an investment, so it was worth my money. So I thought about it heavily.
Mm-hmm.
One of the very first exposures I had to the idea of multifamily was really at a Grant Cardone conference,
Mm-hmm.
10X in Miami, about 5 years ago. Met a guy. He said, "Yeah, I bought a house and then I bought a 40-unit apartment complex." Eye-opening experience. I'm like, what? You went from
Mm-hmm.
one house to 41 units? And he was like, yeah, I read this book called How to Make Big Money in Small Apartment Complexes.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ebook. Checked it out, read it, and it was talking about how to wholesale apartment complexes. It's much simpler than wholesaling houses, how to buy apartment complexes, lists and whatnot. And so, that was the start of believing that I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Then kind of just, still wanted to do it still, but I still wanted to do it like, buy a house, buy another house, buy another house. I still have a house in Mississippi actually that I'm working on, finishing up renovating it currently. Um, and so then from there, I went to David Lindahl.
Mm-hmm.
So since I'm a real estate agent licensed here in Georgia, I have real estate agent friends. They like apartment complexes and commercial and whatnot, but it's different on the realtor side. She actually had a course from David Lindahl that she had bought 6 years ago. Never even opened it. Um, she gave it to me. She's like, "Hey, Demetrius, I'm gonna give you this. You know, you check it out. You're big into commercial. You talk about it all the time. You want to buy apartment complexes. You should read it." So she gave me the course. It had, his success principles book. It had his manual on how to invest in real estate. It showed you how to do seller financing. It showed you how to send offers, write contracts, letter of intent, all of these things. Like, I'm absorbing the material. I'm like, great. And then I didn't really apply it. And then actually last year, I went to Tyler Devereaux's event, Multifamily Mind State. So, that course was free. The one, the David Lindahl one was free. But the multifamily mindset event was $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
It was a weekend course. I paid them. They said, "Hey, look, if you find a deal, we'll sponsor you. You guys can just underwrite it. Here's a workbook. We'll show you how to underwrite a deal. What's a good deal? What's not a good deal? How to do the acquisition fee, how to put the GP team together. So that was a $1,500 course in and of itself. I've been in several fortune builder courses for years. Fortune builders has come around, done courses. Usually it's like $200 for a ticket, up for two. So probably the first one I went to was with my mom, probably when I was like 19,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even younger, because I know she drove me there. Um, which was cool. So fortune builders, they had their program, $200, and of course, they had their coaching program, which is really hands-on, which was $50,000, and I knew I couldn't afford that at the time. So I just said, look, I can't afford this. I just need to study more and figure out how I can learn what they know without having to necessarily come up with 50,000. And then just other mentors. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ty Lopez.
Yeah.
Um, he's the guy with the Lamborghini in his garage.
Mm-hmm.
I hired him to be my mentor, and that was 25,000
Mm.
for about a 1 year program. We met twice, went to an event in at Berkshire Hathaway in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, no, not Oklahoma. It escapes me. Anyways, that was about 25,000 for him. And then just various other programs, mentors. So I paid anywhere from 200 for a class, 1,500 for a class, 3,000 for a seminar, for like a Tony Robbins type of seminar. 25,000 for a Ty Lopez mentor, which was a very, it had like a lot of different things more than just real estate. But real estate's been my main focus. And so, the investment, it's there. But I've also met people along the way as well, various lawyers, various just people who are knowledgeable of real estate, who just show me things or teach me things about how to write up my contracts with my contractors, or about how to structure a deal, or go down to the courthouse and look for a deed, publish a deed, or do it yourself if you want to do a probate deal or something like that. So they're there, they're out there. The courses are out there, and then of course the books. Again, we got to shout out, Bigger Pockets, um, and Tyler over there, because he had a great book that I read recently, which opened my mind even more. Was 0 to 100.
Mm.
Um, it's a book that's about how to buy 100 units in 3 years or less.
Mm.
I started reading it. I started teaching about financial freedom, geographic freedom, because like you, Caleb, they're not owning properties in state; they're owning properties out of state. And it just fired me up to just say, hey, look, I need to apply this more, because they're doing this in 3 years or less. I had already set my goals. I need to I need to go back and look at the information that I got from this course, this Tyler Devereaux course that I did a year ago, and I
Mm-hmm.
still don't own any apartment complexes. So it's obviously something I'm not doing right. And then I go in there and I look at it's a habit sheet, these certain habits that you need to have to be buying apartment complexes. And I ask myself, Demetrius, how many offers have you made in the last year? Like, I haven't made any offers. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's the issue. You're
Mm-hmm.
not making offers on apartment complexes.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make offers on apartment complexes if you want to own apartment complexes. I was like, oh, well, let me get out of my own way, start
Hmm.
making offers. So,
Yeah.
once I woke up to that realization, started making offers 2 a week, got on the phone with the realtor, and now, that brings us up to, current time, current history.
Yeah. That's great, man. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah, you realize, I mean, looking at these habits, it almost feels like I'm doing a podcast now. Like I got you on my podcast. It's funny. Um, but yeah, you got to put in the work, man. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the money. And if you see that you aren't getting the result in your business that you want, then you've got to change something, right? Or find someone that can teach you something. And at the end of the day, just don't quit. That's the only way you can fail is if you don't quit. So
Beautiful.
I'll give the mic back over to you.
Yeah, Caleb, again, well spoken. So, don't quit, guys. Make sure you
Hmm.
don't quit. So, anyways, is there anything that I can do to help you? What do you need help with?
I love teaching people. So if you know anyone that I feel people that I relate with the best, I can teach the best. And look, I don't have much time, so I need to be selective in who I talk with, but I'm willing to work with a select few people that kind of have a similar background. They've done residential. It's time to scale, right? And so I love working with people like that are motivated, that are going to do whatever it takes. So that if maybe someone's listening to this podcast and they're thinking, man, I just want to have a conversation with Caleb and I want to buy apartment complexes, then you can find me on Instagram at Red Sea Capital Group, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Caleb Johnson. I will say I want to work with people that want to buy apartments. If
Mm,
if you think it would be if you own some rentals and think it might be cool to scale into apartments or maybe do industrial or maybe self-storage or whatever, then I really want to focus on people that want to buy apartments because that's what I do. I can't help you if we want to do self-storage. I'd love to, but I can't. So, if you're listening to this, or Demetrius, if you know someone that is like that, happy to have a conversation with them and seeing what I can do for them. And, always open to more deals, always open to more capital to get a deal done. So, let's just collaborate and see where it goes.
beautiful. Beautiful. Definitely well said. So, you guys make sure to follow Caleb on Instagram. Definitely reach out to him. I mean, a lot of times listening, you might not believe it's a possibility, but everyone is approachable.
Hmm.
Everyone starts somewhere. Don't look at Caleb today and say, "Oh, he's got, so many units, I can't even talk to him." Well, just like Caleb is a person. He puts his pants
Hmm.
on one leg at a time,
Hmm.
and he started with zero. If you're at zero right now, don't worry about it. Or maybe you do have units, you might have inherited some property. Okay, still no barrier, no excuses. Reach out to the people who have the resources, the connections, who can help you, and who are saying they will help you, right? These are the people who you want to connect yourself with, who you want to learn from, because they have expressed that they want to teach, right? So there's a synergy there. Um, and just know that that applies for everybody, no matter who you look up to. They're all approachable.
Hmm.
We're all regular people at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Um, all right, cool. So let me go ahead and I think it transferred back over to you
Okay.
once the phone cut out.
Yeah. Do you want me to turn it off?
Yeah, we can stop the recording.
Cool,
Yeah.
man.